the Detroit and Michigan sports teams, whether fans like it or not, and detects, exposes, and reveals actual hidden facts and truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know, actual and hidden facts. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Frank Vasner. Ed Smith will be in just a minute. Follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Frank Vasner on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Frank_Vasner. And follow Ed Smith on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at EdSmith313. Follow the show on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Also like its two Facebook pages of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast, one created by me at Michigan_Truth. And the other created by the Stables Network. Check out our show's website, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast.com. Breck, you might want to hang up your drop your phone and just use your computer, please. And let me try to get Ed in here. Ed's having trouble getting in. Let's see here. Also by the Stables Network, check out our show's website, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast.com. Scour the Stables Network's website, Primetime with the Stables Network.com, and subscribe to its YouTube channel. Also like the Stables Network on Facebook and follow it on Twitter and Periscope at Stables Network and on Instagram at the Stables Network. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any of the mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It only detects that it is not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals actual and hidden truth, facts, and statistics about them, because the truth is out there. So lots to talk about in terms of the coronavirus affecting sports. Let's see here. It involves our Pistons, the Western Michigan Broncos men's basketball team, and even the Michigan State Spartans football team that's making some masks. Also, we got lots of Major League Baseball news to cover, and some NBA and a little NHL and NSL, plus a little college basketball, NCAA news, and some other cancellations in other non-basic sports, which I like to call non-essential, plus non-coronavirus news. Hey, Breck, you want to drop your phone and just use your computer, and then you can try to call Ed Smith. That'll be easier that way, please. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't know why the Atlantic Primetime Sports is on here, but but anyway, plus we got a little Michigan Wolverines men's basketball news that has nothing to do with the issue at hand. Plus some Carmelo Anthony stuff that he would have been drafted by the Pistons in 2003. Also, we got our TMSTP story vault. We'll try to fit that in as soon as we can. So, Breck, how are we doing on Ed Smith? Have you dropped your phone yet? Let's see here. So, here's what we know at the moment here. Use your phone and to exit out of the Zoom app, and then call Ed. All right. First off, Pistons head coach Dwayne Casey said he was very unhappy about the news of Pistons power forward and center Christian Wood tested positive for the coronavirus that actually became public. He told ESPN's Jackie McMullen the info was leaked to the media before Wood even had a chance to inform his family. And the Pistons organization made their practice facility available to health officials for COVID-19 relief efforts. And I think the Red Wings and Lions should do the same with theirs. According to the score via the Associated Press, let's see. The Western Michigan Broncos men's basketball team has hired Clayton Bates as head coach to replace Steve Hawkins, who was fired after 17 seasons. Western Michigan University Athletic Director Kathy Beauregard says the coronavirus pandemic affected the job search, says she wanted to change leadership of their program days before the COVID-19 crisis emerged. A comprehensive national search in this time of anxiety, despite exceedingly strong national interest in the position, didn't sit well, quote unquote, with her. Assistant coach Thomas Kelly and director of basketball operations Jake Bullock are retained. In Major League Baseball, Commissioner Rob Manfred is optimistic the season will start in May at some point, but will not contain all 162 games. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball was making medical face masks and gowns instead of jerseys, which is better at this moment right now. MLB and the players have reached a deal, according to Jeff Passan of The Athletic on Twitter at Jeff Passan, Passan. Oh, is that Ed Smith coming in?
I'm in, guys.
Hey, Ed.
All right. Hey, Ed. All right. We finally got him in. Good. So, continuing on here, the deal at Major League Baseball and the players have reached is this. They voted on it last Thursday and owner-buyers ratified the next day. Owners will advance players $170 million for April and May, sources tell ESPN. If there's no season, that money that will be kept by the players in the deal. MLB has the right to shorten the 2020 MLB draft to 5 rounds. It can also delay the start of the international signing period to as late as January 2021. In case there's no 2020 season, players get full service time, meaning players like Mookie Betts, Trevor Bauer, Marcus Stroman, JT Realmuto, and others will be free agents in November, regardless of whether games are played or not. Because the season will be cleared shorter, the arbitration rules will be adjusted for putting up counting stats that don't stack up to past comparables. Ken Rosenthal on Twitter at Ken_Rosenthal added, no official date on the draft, but it will be held no later than July. Also, players get to sign off on scheduling. No agreement on spring training or roster size as of yet. Passan says players in the league agreed to the 2020 season, that the 2020 season won't begin until there are no bans on mass gatherings that limit the ability to play in front of fans. There are no travel restrictions. Medical experts determine games will not pose a risk to health of teams and fans. The caveat agreed to by the players in league is that they will consider playing games at neutral sites instead of home ballparks and will consider feasibility of playing in empty stadiums, and just how proper a solution it may be for both sides and especially fans. Also considering expanding the postseason, planning to play a 140 game season with 29 man rosters for now. Rosters are frozen. We can continue on and on. Adam Silver cutting executive salaries by 20%. There's been an argument between players that they want either just the playoffs or games before then. Plus the NFL draft will stay on schedule on April 20 from April 25th, 23rd to 25th. Winter sports athletes not granted extra eligibility in NCAA, but spring athletes are granted theirs. And the Indy 500 and U.S. Open in golf were postponed, and the 2020 Olympic Games have been set for a new date of July 23rd, 2021, which is next year. And the Wimbledon in tennis has been canceled. So Ed, we're going to start with you. Just lots of stuff going on in terms of the coronavirus affecting sports. So go right ahead.
Yeah, in addition to the Major League Baseball, of course, there was also still ripple effects regarding the NBA. There's still, now it is worth noting that some positive news. I don't know if this was mentioned while I was being waited to make the call, but apparently all players on the Lakers, because it was reported that two unidentified players had tested positive. The whole team is now apparently symptoms clear. Same of course applies to I think it was the Brooklyn Nets. Wasn't sure. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay, because I knew Kevin Durant was one of the players that tested positive, but apparently they're clear, as well as Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz, which their domino effect led to this snowball of essentially all sports being postponed and suspended. So their symptoms are clear. Of course, we talked about Christian Wood's symptoms being clear. So that's one aspect. It's also would like to note that well-renowned and fan favorite commentator Doris Burke had also recently revealed that she had contacted the virus. She experienced symptoms, she got tested, and she is recovering as we speak. So get well, Doris, on that. In regards to salary, similar to what you mentioned, Taylor, about the MLB, I believe I saw a tweet or a story regarding divvying up NBA player salaries. And while I can't go into quite explicit detail, just know that if the season were to get canceled, an allocation of money would be distributed to certain players in certain amounts in certain tiers. So if I will say this, if you were a client of Rich Paul, you should be very happy that you're a client of Rich Paul. That's all I'm going to say. Now, moving on to other aspects, combat sports. WWE is still, of course, going on with WrestleMania. They've already taped it. But obviously there's going to be massive edits being done, not just obviously the fact that you're dealing with an empty stadium, but also the fact that multiple talent is not going to be available for this card, such as Roman Reigns, such as The Miz, such as Dana Brooke, such as Rey Mysterio, Andrade Cien Almas, among many others. And it's a combination not just of the virus. I want to make that perfectly clear. It is also due in the fact, at least in the case of Andrade, and I think Bobby Lashley, that injury has taken him off the Mania card as well. So we are looking, with the fact that this whole issue has caused a potential 7-hour show to be split into 2 nights, we are going to be looking at, without question, the weirdest WrestleMania of all time. And it's worth noting that Wimbledon, of all things, had been canceled only 2 other times in history. That was during World War I, and that was during World War II. So the fact that it takes an unprecedented pandemic such as this to cancel Wimbledon, of all things, that should let you know how serious this is. And in the latest update regarding the UFC 249 fiasco, lightweight champ Khabib Nurmagomedov has confirmed that he will not be fighting Tony Ferguson on April 18th. He is still quarantined in Russia. Now, it is interesting to note that recently, as of today, I believe, it was reported that Russia has given the okay for private flights to be used internationally if need be. So it gave some fans some hopes to say, hey, maybe Khabib can get this granted to him. He can be provided to fly, travel, do whatever, and still fight Tony. Khabib himself has come out and said, no, I will not risk myself. Conor McGregor is calling for quarantine. I'm going to follow suit. I think everyone else should be quarantined. That was his stance, his thoughts, and the reason why he is essentially pulling out of UFC 249. Tony Ferguson is going to be apparently likely fighting Justin Gaethje. Though at least that is the fight that he has been offered. We are still not certain if Ferguson will be fighting Gaethje or maybe in a last-minute replacement, possibly Conor McGregor or someone else. It's just an example of how chaotic this whole thing has been. And of course, Ferguson has had his own opinion. He believes that Khabib is using this as an excuse to duck out of the fight. Say that, again, your mileage is going to vary on that. We'll work with regards to your opinion on that regard. But it is worth noting, like I said, Khabib was the one that was saying, do whatever you can, Dana. Send me the location. Let's just do this. Let's get this fight done. Then apparently he went to Dubai. He was told things were certain. Then he went back home to Russia. And now, of course, with Russia closing their borders, Khabib claims he was no longer being able, even though, like I said, the report being out that Russia has okayed the use of private flights to be used for international purposes. So take that for what you will, and whose side you want to believe. All we know is that more than likely, for the fifth time, the most anticipated fight that fans have been waiting to see has now been postponed or canceled due to weird, and extremely outrageous circumstances. So that is the wrap up, so to speak, from my end and to what I've seen the COVID-19 issue affecting not just the sports that I follow, the sports I love, but all sports in general.
Frank, follow up.
I mean, kind of to just go off what Ed said, I mean, the whole UFC thing with the Khabib Tony Ferguson fight being scrubbed, I think there's just a lot going on that's just kind of weird and confusing. I mean, he mentioned Wimbledon being canceled due to COVID-19 and how that's kind of historic too. I believe the French Open was postponed, which that's usually what precedes Wimbledon back in May. I don't know if the French Open is going to happen or not, if that's been canceled. I doubt it. Yeah, if Wimbledon's not going to happen, the French Open is not going to happen. So probably just a matter of time before if they go through with the U.S. Open, which happens in late August into September. So we'll have to see what happens there. And of course, with the NFL draft still going on, I'm just waiting to see if we end up having a football season or not. Hopefully we do, but I'm really not getting my hopes up at this point with the way things are going.
Exactly. Not just pros, college as well.
Yeah,
it's affecting high school sports as well. Still no word on since the MHSA has postponed winter and spring games, but Governor Gretchen Whitmer is going deeper. Governor of Michigan, state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer is reportedly expected to shut down the rest of the high school term, meaning seniors are going to graduate immediately. Good thing for Ithaca High School Yellow Jackets girls basketball seniors Emma Bellis and Sam Vermeesh, for example. Shout out to them. For instance, by the way, they're gonna graduate too.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of go off that, Taylor, if Governor Whitmer does enact the decision to cancel high school for the rest of the year, I would assume that high school athletics would follow suit. I do know that Ohio has canceled the rest of their winter tournaments, so I'm expecting Michigan to do something similar. So that probably means no basketball, all tournaments, and also no spring sports as well, no baseball, no softball, no track and field, and whatever spring sports there might be. As for me, this has affected me personally because I am an umpire during baseball season. I've already lost several games, and I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop on others. And plus, I also announced for Blissfield High School baseball, and I know there's some who are hoping for a miracle that we get a baseball season, because I think Blissfield's going to be pretty good in baseball this year. But again, I'm not really getting my hopes up, and I'm expecting no season there as well.
Yeah. That's a lot of checks being missed out on, Frank.
Yeah, I kind of did the math. I'm probably losing out on, if I don't have any games to umpire, that's probably at least $1,000 in money that I'm losing out on.
Yeah, that's got to be a shame, no doubt about it. So, yeah. Well, yesterday we learned the NCAA has extended dead periods for divisions 1 and 2 through May 31st. That's another thing that we learned. Also, MLB teams plotted a salary plan to pay minor leaguers $400 per week through at least May 31st. Several NBA players plan to donate blood. 2 days ago, we learned that the NHL has extended their self-quarantine period through April 15th. And that's about it.
Well, you did mention earlier, Taylor, about the NCAA extending granting another year of eligibility to spring sports athletes, those that play baseball, softball, and track and field. I think this is for once the NCAA has decided to use common sense, and it's a good move on their part because all those athletes are missing out on an entire season. I do know there was some that were getting their softball and baseball started down in Florida when their seasons were canceled, and plus I happen to know several baseball and softball players personally that they've lost out on their season. So it's good to know that they're going to get another year. I mean, some people are upset that basketball's not going to get another chance to, but I think if you try and give them another season, of eligibility, it kind of opens up another can of worms because they've already had the season, just no postseason. And I mean, would I like to see basketball players get another chance at an NCAA tournament? Yeah, it'd be nice too, but the logistics just doesn't work out in the end.
Exactly. That's why you're still seeing the normal, usual amount of players. Even if they have a year or so of eligibility left, senior or not, they're still going to the league because bills got to be paid and they got to get their money. They got to get that bad too, which is why, when you see, like, for example, Isaiah Livers, he's going pro. Expected more than likely, but, hats off to him. He's got to do what he's got to do. He's got a family to take care of. Xavier, what was his name from
Xavier
MSU?
Tillman.
Xavier Tillman. Thank you, Frank. Exactly. He's got a family of his own.
Last week.
Right. He's got a family. He's got a wife, 2 kids to take care of. I mean, he just had a baby. Himself, which is why he's now junior instead of senior instead of just his name. So
congratulations to him.
Exactly. So there's that future he's got to look out, take care of, and look out for. So he's got to do what he has to do. And my hats off to him. Go get that bag. Same thing with Isaiah Livers. Go get that bag.
Yeah, and
do what you got to do now while your value is at its highest.
Yeah, and speaking of Isaiah Livers, he enters the NBA draft. He led the Wolverines in scoring at 12.9 points per game. And the NBA draft, from what I've learned, might be pushed to either August or September. That's what I've read.
And a quick note on both Tillman and Livers. They did go through the draft. They are going through the draft evaluation process, but neither player has hired an agent. So it's not for certain they're going to stay in or not. I think they're just kind of testing the waters, seeing what kind of evaluation they're going to get back.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, then they'll withdraw.
I've heard, for example, that Isaiah Livers has actually left the door open, probably intentionally, to stay at Michigan. And probably Xavier Tillman's probably doing the exact same thing Isaiah Livers is doing.
Yeah,
I get that aspect.
I think both players are trying. I believe Tillman, I think, at least is leaving the option open of possibly coming back to finish his degree. Okay, so he at least has that to fall back on as well. But we'll see. We'll just kind of wait and see what happens with both of them.
Right, because as you all remember, everybody thought Trey Burke was gone, and then he decides he's going to come back, and the next thing you know, Michigan's in the national title game. Trey Burke won Player of the Year, and then he got passed over for KCP, and people were upset. So there you go.
Yep, and we'll keep an eye on those two as we move along here to non-coronavirus news. Big good segue there. Let's check out what the Lions did the past week. Chad Forbes on Twitter at NFL Draft Bites tweeted, former first-round pick Lions linebacker Jared Davis is available via trade. He's 25 years old and he'll earn under $2 million in 2020. He appears to have fallen out of favor of Matt Patricia's coaching staff. So he's another guy probably that doesn't like Matt Patricia, kind of like Darius Slay, who was released or traded actually to the Philadelphia Eagles for a couple draft picks. Also, let's get into some grading here, huh? What's your grade segment? Reggie Ragland from the Kansas City Chiefs, the linebacker, signed a 1-year deal with the Detroit Lions. Ed, what's your grade?
Well, considering the fact that, I think the Jared Davis news could be the fact may not just be attitude problems, not attitude problems, but dislike or not, falling out of favor. Also, I think player performance and performance on the field has got to play a part in it. And, Jared Davis, as much as I like him, he does have some shortcomings but I'm pretty sure Patricia and his crew might have caught an eye on and have 2 years of film to say, okay, you know what, it's just not working out. So that's why you've seen them make the moves that they had now, because the linebacking core, was one of, if not the worst aspect of that defense and that whole team last year. Major weakness. So bring in a guy like Ragland, who's going to give you some run stopping ability, but also is more specially suited for reading the quarterbacks in zone coverage. That's going to help improve your linebacking depth. That along with, Shelton or was it Shelton? Or someone else.
Well, but anyway, what's your grade on Ragland?
But for my grade on Ragland, I'll give it a B- because I want to see how it goes overall. But I can see on paper what the purpose of the move is to do. You need to improve your linebacking core. This is one way of doing it because Ragland did provide some good help for the Chiefs, and I think it can be an okay signing.
Yep. Frank, what's your grade on Ragland?
I'm going to agree with that and give it a B- because he's actually played fairly decent when he was with Kansas City last season. And he actually did start in the Super Bowl as well. Well, I mean, I know injuries have kind of hampered him early in his career because he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, but he never to play, so he got traded to Kansas City. Played well there. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of help shore things up there. Now, the Lions also did sign Elijah Lee, who was primarily a special team guy with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
so
let's grade him too. I'm going to give Ragland a B- as well. Frank, I'm going to let you provide analysis on Elijah Lee, and then I'll have you grade him, and then we'll pass it over to Ed. Frank, go ahead. Take it away.
So,
Continue.
I think Lee, it seems like more is just a special teams player and depth guy. This signing I'm probably just going to give a C. Hey, just because, just simply depth, just there for depth. I mean, he might help shore up the special teams as well, but only time will tell that. So I'm giving that a C.
Ed, grade on Lee.
Before I give the grade, I wanted to give correction to myself. It was not Danny Shelton. It was Jamie Collins. That was the player I was looking for, but just couldn't find his name. Danny Shelton is D-line,
gotcha.
Collins is linebacker. As for Elijah Lee, I kind of agree with Frank. I'm going to go C+, because I think he's a body you can use for linebacking depth purposes, but he is mainly used for your special teams purposes. He does have, in 2 of his 3 full seasons that he played with San Fran special teams, he accumulated a grade by Pro Football Focus of at least a 70 or higher. Last year, he came off a 75 grade. So between that and knowing the fact that he did not have a single penalty last year, I think that speaks well to his discipline. And I think that's something that you can use that to model for the rest of your defense and the rest of your team to follow. So now, granted, it sounds like I should be giving this a higher grade, more than I should. But like I said, special teams, linebacking depth, you need a body, and plus you want to see how it all plays out. For now, I'm giving it a C+.
All right, I'm going to give that a C+ as well. Ed provided a little bit more analysis there to help Frank out there, but I'm going to
thank you, Ed.
That's why I'm going to give it a C+. So Packers wide receiver Geronimo Allison signs with the Lions on a 1-year, $910,000 deal, very cheap deal after playing 4 seasons with the Pack. Ed, we'll start with you this time. What's your grade on Allison?
I'm going to give this one C, maybe a C-, because I get the reasoning why you want wide out depth. You also want to give a little bit of a veteran presence. That's why you brought him in like that. Basically, you want to make him your version of Anquan Bolden for this year. This is what the gist is what I'm trying to get at. Because the main targets are you're going to try to force Kenny, to get the ball to Kenny Golladay more. I would hope. I think with Marvin Jones as well, and hopefully get Hockenson more involved. But having Geronimo Allison there does provide some depth. And also, apparently, if you search his social media history, has some very raunchy tweets describing a certain part of the female anatomy. So that's cool to see.
Oh, okay. Frank?
Well, there you go.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna have to give this a C minus too. I mean, I get why they brought Allison in just to kind of bring some depth, because right now guys behind Kenny Galladay are and Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola are Marvin Hall and Chris Lacey, and I mean I would take Allison over all of them. But as Ed mentioned, his pretty raunchy tweets, I'm not real fond of it, but hopefully he has a chance to clean up his act. So C minus for me.
C minus it is. The jury has spoken. And Sam Martin signs an unspecified deal with the Denver Broncos. We've learned from a couple tweets from last week. No official news yet, but Sam Martin wanted to tell Detroit fans, Lions fans, thanks on his own Twitter account, and then one of the fans tweeted, "Good luck, best of luck in your journey in Denver." That tells the sign that Martin has signed at least agreed to an unspecified deal with those Broncos.
Well, I don't know if that was verified or not, but if that is true, at least he'll be reunited with Graham Glasgow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from another fan on Twitter. Another one of those fans. So good. Well, anyway, either way, good luck, Sam Martin. He probably had wanted nothing to do with that trashy Lions organization. So before I get to the Carmelo Anthony story, we could segue and tell you that all Pistons players have no COVID-19 symptoms, and that's good. Christian Wood was already fully recovered. The rest of the team, including Blake Griffin, who was injured for the rest of the season, as of right now, no positive tests. So that being said, let's go into that Melo story that I sent to you guys on Facebook Messenger. Melo was saying he would have won two or three NBA championship rings with those Pistons if they drafted him in 2003 instead of Darko Milicic. Ed, we'll start with you. I know Frank's got something to say, but I believe Ed's got more analysis on that. The Pistons won the 2004 championship anyway, but they could have won more than one, and that's why Carmelo Anthony could have been there for the taking, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about that absolutely loaded draft class of 2003, I think it's this generation's, I would say, either 84 or 96 draft for this generation. We consider the star power and future Hall of Famers just in the top 5 picks alone. LeBron, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and then, of course, the Pistons, with our luck, we got Darko. Now, the hype around Darko was basically we expect him to become what Kristaps Porzingis or Luka Doncic is now. Think about that for a second. Then obviously he boomed, he bust, and despite all that, we still won the title in his rookie year, even though he didn't contribute not a darn thing. But when you think of the fact that, yeah, you could have had a young in his prime Carmelo Anthony, who, mind you, by the way, was just coming off winning national championships in high school and was the most outstanding player in the Final Four when he won the title with Syracuse in 2003. Made that clutch block out of bounds near the end of the game that sealed it. So even though the narrative around Melo has changed dramatically over the past 15, 17 years, let's not forget his image of when he came into the league. So having that player on that roster, let's say coming off the bench for Tayshaun Prince or backing up Rip Hamilton. Now, I don't know if they would still be able to get the Rasheed trade done, but let's say, for the sake of argument, for the sake of hypothetical, they still get the Rasheed trade done. They still win the title. They have Melo come off the bench. You don't mean to tell me that Carmelo Anthony wouldn't have made a difference in that 2005 finals against the Spurs, especially that game 5 that came down to literally the last possession? You mean to tell me that Carmelo Anthony would not have made an impact in 2006? A young Melo matching up against a young D Wade in '06. Well, I don't know if they would have beaten the Heat, but still, they would have at least likely gotten into another 7-game series. 2007, probably, I don't know, because LeBron still went off and did LeBron things. But maybe if you add Carmelo on there as a way to give more defensive help, because gotta remember, if Carmelo gets drafted in '03, he starts his career learning under Larry Brown and the Pistons system of that defense, being led by Chauncey, being led by Ben, being led by Rip. So let's say all those elements stay on. You're looking at a far different Carmelo Anthony as a player, as a person, and as a career standpoint, because the offensive score was there. But then you build upon his defense abilities, then there's no question. Between '04 and obviously when we still beat the Lakers, and '05 when we went down the stretch in the Game 7 against the Spurs, Melo would have been the major difference to win. Yeah, '05 definitely, '06 strong possibility. I would dare say you have a strong chance of making it to the finals in '08 because you still went 6 games against the Celtics team that just pulled off acquiring their big three of Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. So put that Melo on that team. Now, granted, Ben is gone by this point. Rasheed is not what he used to be, but Tayshaun, Rip, Chauncey, still young, still in their prime, still there. Let's not forget also the only other time that Carmelo made it out of the first round to get to the Western, at least past the second round, he got to the Western Conference Finals in 2009 before the Nuggets fell against the Lakers. Who was his teammate? Who was his point guard on that '09 team? Chauncey Billups. Exactly. Chauncey's leadership would have been so key to helping groom Carmelo and help lead Carmelo. And I think obviously he will have championships, which is the one thing that's essentially missing from his career. And I think a whole new narrative and whole new attitude would be seen and viewed upon Carmelo as not just some diva who valued money over legacy, but as a true all-time great player. Because I think Carmelo gets more disrespect than he should. I get the whole wanting money and obviously his affairs off the court as well, probably plays in that narrative as well. But that does not take away the fact that him on that Pistons team with that culture, with Larry Brown, with the system that would have made that he would have learned and been groomed under as a young player would have drastically altered how we view Carmelo's legacy overall today. Because you're just not just looking at a guy who has multiple championships. You're looking at a guy who is championships, but was also without one of, if not the key reason why they won those championships. Who's to say Melo doesn't have 1 or 2 Finals MVPs in his trophy case by now? So a lot of what ifs, a lot of potential butterfly effects that we could have seen if we, let's just say we don't even take Darko. Say you take Chris Bosh, for instance. Make him that backup big, especially after Ben left, because that's what we really needed. So if need be, plug in Bosh to that center role, make him a stretch 5 or rotate it between him and Rasheed, however way you want to do it. But having a Chris Bosh there would have helped. Certainly having a Dwayne Wade would have helped. Granted, it might have been tougher to do because Rip was still Rip. So I would think you have more likely a chance of things panning out if you had taken Melo and or at least Bosh as opposed to Darko. Obviously, if Dwayne Wade's there, you still take him because best player available. But let's say, if I could say not Darko, Melo or Bosh, I would not mind either one of those two over Darko for sure.
Yep. Okay, so this just in 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago from the CBS Sports app. Speaking of which, Tim Doyle did a video on how he believed a winning culture would have helped Carmelo win 2 to 3 titles if he was drafted by the Pistons, and that explains Frank's thoughts. So Frank, go ahead.
I mean, I kind of think that Carmelo would have gotten 2 titles because I think he probably would have learned the system in '04 or winning the title under Larry Brown, although I'm not sure how much he would have played because Brown had a tendency to play veterans. Although in 2005, I think he probably would have learned well enough to defend better and especially not leave Big Shot Bob wide open in Game 5. Looking at you, Rasheed Wallace, and I don't need to.
I love you, Rasheed, but man.
I mean, I did. I mean, Ed, I do too, but leaving
was
Big
electrified.
Shot Bob wide open in Game 5 because the Pistons because I think Carmelo would have helped them win Game 5. They're up 3-2. They go back to Detroit, win Game 6. They're back-to-back champions, but that's just my thoughts there. As for 2006, I'm really not sure how he would have helped because the Pistons because I think that was when Ben Wallace left town and headed to
After
Chicago.
that, Ben Wallace left after the 2005-2006 season when the Pistons lost to the Heat in the Eastern Conference. Yeah. In the Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm not really sure if you would have had, because they probably would have had Sheet playing the 5 more and not had the corpse of Chris Webber down the stretch, because I don't think they would have been able to stop LeBron James, who was just on another planet in 2007. And so that's my thoughts on that. Would have gotten 2 titles, 3. Who knows? But I don't think
he meant
would have
at
really
least
made
2.
too much difference against the King. Yeah.
So the Heat had Shaq, had Dwayne Wade, Pat Riley as their head coach. Yikes, he was a master. There was almost nobody that could stop him except Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point, but at that time frame. But nonetheless, got 18 change minutes. Why don't we get to the other story in our vault? From Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Dragon on December 14th of 2017. Why is the son of Mike Ilitch, Chris, getting a free pass? That's the headline. Here we go. Bear with me. The moral of that story is Chris's father, Mike Ilitch, was still attempting to put a competitive team on the Comerica Park field in 2016, even after he made the prudent deals to obtain Michael Fulmer, Daniel Norris, Matthew Boyd, and others to inject the franchise with quality prospects. But that's not Chris Ilitch's end game. This isn't just about guaranteeing the future of the organization in the next few seasons. This is clearly about Ilitch not caring about the fan base of the Tigers. One that has supported the team at the box office for the last decade plus, with no World Series jewelry to show for it. We have also made the franchise's games the city's highest rated program during the summer of Fox Sports Detroit. It appears that the beat writers and columnists and even many slappy fans can't fathom there is some middle ground between Chris Ilitch reasonably lowering the team's bloated budget to get under the luxury tax provision in the CBA collective bargaining agreement and the near $80 million austerity program we are now going through that will make this team totally unwatchable for the next few seasons as they lose over 100 games. So this was Moss's plan. He's including the accompanying consensus projections for what these available players are expected to sign in his analysis. Lorenzo Cain, 4 years, $70 million, $17.5 million per year. JD Martinez, 5 years, $110 million, $22 million per year. Alex Cobb, 4 years, $48 million, $12 million per. And Alex Avila, 1 year, $2 million. Under Moss's plan, you don't trade Ian Kinsler for the 20th and 24th best prospects from a depleted farm system. You keep him. You can also sign a few bullpen arms for under $10 million or acquire them in trades and field a respectable team way under the luxury tax threshold while still slashing tens of millions of dollars in payroll in comparison to the start of 2017. Also, you might think Moss is being conservative with the money and term for JD, but that's more money than Upton received. Justin Upton, that is, received that with the Angels, so it seems reasonable. The pitching would still be a huge question mark, but this team was going to have to rely upon guys like Norris and Boyd this coming year, even before the moves they made over the last few months. At the very least, a team with this lineup would have a fighting chance on a game-to-game basis. Lorenzo Cain at center field, batting leadoff. Behind him, Ian Kinsler at second base, Miguel Cabrera first base, JD Martinez hitting cleanup in right field, Nick Castellanos in the 5-hole at DH, Jeimer Candelario at third base, either Mikey Matuk or Christian Stewart in left field in the 7-hole, and then batting eighth, either James McCann or Alex Avila, semi-platoon catching, And finally, at shortstop, either Jose Iglesias or Dixon Machado batting ninth. The plan would include telling Victor Martinez to stay home. None of those signings would be harmful to the team's future. You would still be on pace for a starting rotation in a few years of Alex Faedo, Brady Singer, if they predictably select him in June, Matt Manning, Bureau Burrows, and Franklin Perez. They aren't stunting the growth of any prospects ready to play right now, because other than maybe Stewart, the team doesn't have any. And why do you care if Chris Ilitch, a man who heads a family worth over $6 billion, has to shell out some dough to give us just a little hope heading into 2018? You're talking about a man who was just recently took $300 million from the city of Detroit to build a new arena, Little Caesars Arena, that is, and who in a week is going to get a tax cut in the hundreds of millions thanks to our corrupt president, Donald Trump, that is, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, so 13 million folks can lose their health insurance. That excludes me. I have Meridian health insurance. Thank you very much. But yeah, I care, but I don't care for myself. I care about others. This is the family you're worried about shelling out some dough for players like Kane, JD, and Alex Cobb, not Ty Cobb, Alex Cobb, so we have an alternative to watching Big Brother and America's Got Talent this summer. Here's the chart demonstrating what the Ilitch family has doled out in payroll over the last decade. 2009, 25-man roster of 115 million, 85,145. And Frank, 40-man year end, 139,429,408, ranked fifth. 2010, 25-man roster, 133,999,400. 40-man, 135,913,308, ranked fifth. 2011, 25-man, $106,953,000. 40-man, $113,230,923, ranked 10th. 2012, 25-man, $133,475,000. 40-man, $140,701,213, ranked fifth. 2013, 25-man of $148,693,600, and a 40-man roster of $154,728,724, ranked fifth. Halfway there, so bear with me. 25 man, 163 of 163 mils, 635,500, and 40 man, 173 mil, $291,085, ranked fourth. 2015, 25 man, 172 mil, 792,250, and a 40 man of 164 million, $10,992, ranked sixth. And 2016, 25 man, 198 million, 593,000, 40 man, 212 million, 44,266, ranked third. And then in 2017, a 25 man of 199,750,600, a 40 man, probably way over 200 million, but I would say around 250 mil before the window closed. Chris Ilitch was also forcing what was the Foxtown Grill out of a building in between the Fillmore and Fox Theater. To summarize, the Ilitch family had no problem taking the Kalinske family's money when the city was struggling, but now that things have turned around, they want that space for themselves. Like I said, Chris Ilitch and his family only care about themselves. While Ilitch was purposely buying up land near the district Detroit under assumed business entitles and artificially depressing the area for years and years, people like Kalinske were attempting to carve out a living downtown. The Tigers are still screwed until he sells them. So Ed, I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 minutes on this lowdown. We'll pass it over to Frank. Go ahead.
It shows you that Chris was such an enormous cheapskate that he helped play a part in sabotaging the team's open window from, I guess you can say, the back end of Leland's career to the first year of Ausmus. or they had ample time to not just win the get to the playoffs, but also compete for the World Series. Obviously, you saw what they did in 2011, 2012, got close in 2013, slipped in 2014. Between the Doug Fister trade, which was really the catalyst to what he was doing, and all these cuts that were made in between, it was just quite disheartening to see. Very disheartening. And the fact that obviously, I think Chris made the decision between influencing managerial hires as well. That's why we got Osmus. That's why we got Ron Gardenhire. That's why we still have Alex Avila. That's why we thank you. That's why we still have Alex Avila for God's sakes. So
Yeah,
it's not a surprise why Chris got a free pass, because I guess he doesn't open his mouth in public. And obviously, with the whole Ilitch family name behind him, that's going to give him a pass because of what you brought up. Your dad helped us won all those cups, and he tried his best to get that World Series before he passed. So that explains why he gets the pass that he does. But Chris has proven to me time and time again, it's just untrustworthy. Not just untrustworthy in general. Just from sports perspective to other aspects, Chris just comes off as very untrustworthy.
yeah. World Series ring or bust. Frank, I'm going to give you at least 3 minutes, but a minimum up to 5. Go ahead. Follow up.
Well, pretty much to sum up what Ed said, Chris Ilitch was just a cheapskate. Hey, penny pincher, as he still is now. Hell, that's why they still have Al Avila, and that's why the team's payroll has been slashed big time. But I think I'm kind of going back to what Moss said once, that still could have signed halfway decent players, still had a competitive team, but no, we don't want to do that. We're just going to be cheapskates. And that's why Chris Ilitch just said, well, his dad was trying to win all the Stanley Cups as an owner with the Red Wings and tried so hard to get the World Series before he died, but never could. And of course, I think there's also another article we could dive into at a later date as to why it was Chris who was running the show and not any of the other Ilitch children. But we'll save that for another time.
All right. So, that's pretty much all we've got to cover. Speaking of the Pistons, what kind of story do you guys want to work on for next week? Probably we could talk about the Andre Drummond car accident injury and him being sued. That was another one from Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag. That's another possibility. Any other possibilities, Ed?
What in the heck went on with Joe Dumars in his last years as Pistons GM with the draft picks and other signings that he made?
Yeah, there we go. You can write some notes up on that one. Frank, any suggestions?
I mean, I think we could possibly dive into why Chris Ilitch was the heir apparent and not any of the others. But I mean, there were reasons. But I think also, I would kind of like to go into all the bad moves that Ken Holland did when he was GM.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ken Holland, one of his Ponzi schemes. Yeah, that's also what Jeff Moss was pointing out. He's got all the details. He's got more details than anyone, even from TSN, even from CBC, even from others. Yeah, Sportsnet. Yeah,
and that was the other bit. That's the other big media outlet in Canada.
That's right. Yes, sports media outlet that is. So, Ed, why don't we get to our closing statement? We got 5 and change minutes. Ed, I'm going to give you probably 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Closing remarks are it's simple to keep up with. Just going on with the theme of trying to survive and persevere and will yourself to get through this, because it's something we've never dealt with before, but I can see how we all can find ways to not lose our minds, so to speak. Don't, obviously, if you're seeing what the other idiots are doing out there in the world, licking toilets, going to beaches, not following orders to stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary. Those idiots, they're going to die off anyway, so you shouldn't worry too much about that. Well, I would say try not to let this affect your mind psychologically and spiritually as well, because this, more than anything, is an ultimate test. I guess if you want to get too, I don't want to get too religious, but it is a test of faith. It is a test of will, but it's also a test to see how much metal you are made of yourself, and showing, I think, the true test of perseverance, and to how if you can get through this, you can practically get through anything that is not too inconceivable. So that being my message, is to stay calm, stay positive, and stay safe. It's the best we can do at these times. And, obviously you want to say hope for the best, but all you can do is just hope that things at least return to normal after all this passes through.
Yep, that's true, and that's why there are 337 COVID deaths right now total in the state of Michigan, like 78 today. Frank, I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes closing statement. With your closing statement, go ahead.
I will admit that these are some very tough times, and they can be very depressing as well. My way of combating being all left down in the dumps is limit your intake on how much news you watch a day. Don't be tuned into to the cable news networks hours on end, hoping things are going to get better, because all we're just going to see from them is how many people are dying from this, how many people are hospitalized. Don't focus on the depressing aspect of this. I mean, if you want to stay informed, just limit it to maybe half hour, 45 minutes a day. After that, focus on time you can spend with your family, like whatever that may be. I mean, earlier tonight, I was helping out my dad with some stuff in the back shed. Getting to spend some time with him. Spend time with your families. Don't focus so much on the negatives. In fact, focus more on the positives. I even heard today that there's a possibility they've identified antibodies that can actually stop this coronavirus. So focus on the positives. Don't focus on the negatives.
Oh, right. At least you can stay informed like I am when I'm watching 9 and 10 news.
Exactly, Taylor. I mean, tune into your local news. Don't be tuned into the cable news networks and the national news hour by hour, because
right.
That's not good. That's not gonna help you keep a positive mindset.
Right. They are telling facts. I'll give them that. You can't blame the media for spreading panic.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you there, but don't stay glued to it.
Right. Oh, I'm not going to stay glued to it. I hold my favorite news personalities close to my heart. Of course.
Good on you.
Oh yeah, I keep watching them. Just the local news. Of course. And if any person out there blames any of my favorites for spreading panic, I'm going to get after them. No offense, but I'm at least I'm not going to be violent about it. But that's just the way it is. I'm just going to tell them off. That's as far as I'm going to go. Don't mess with my favorites, period. Or I'll come and bitch you out. So scour the Stables Network's website, primetimewiththestablesnetwork.com. Thanks, guys. Subscribe to its YouTube channel. Like the Stables Network on Facebook. Follow it on Twitter and Periscope at Stables Network, and on Instagram at the Stables Network. Also follow the Stables Network. Listen to it on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Castbox, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Twitch, and Blog Talk Radio to listen to our episodes. Check out our show on the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast website, the MichiganSportsTruthPodcast.com. Also, like its 2 Facebook pages of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, one created by me at Michigan Sports Truth, and the other created by the Stables Network. Follow its Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram. Frank Vasner on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Frank_Vasner, and Ed Smith on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at EdSmith313. We're back next Wednesday with another installment, Wednesday from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Thanks very much for downloading and sharing. Until then, remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Bon appetit. Hit them with a hind. We rest our case. Stay safe, everyone.
And stay healthy too.
Ed? Yep. All right, we're done.
Absolutely.